I think these things that we will talk about are definitely going to help you to improve as a basketball player. And if you apply them to the skills that we talk about to basketball, then you'll see an improvement in how you do in training and in games. But more than that, these are going to be skills that you can take into anything. And basketball has so many facets, it has so many faces, there's so many different ways that you can impact a basketball team, that again, these things are not just about scoring and playing defense. You know, this is about leadership, it's about achievement, it's about performing really well, it's about training in the right way, it's about communicating and working with others. So many different things to look at. And we're going to start this week with setting goals and the importance of that and all things related to it. All right. You will have a chance at the end of the session to ask questions on this call, and we'll take those live. And then any other questions that you have, feel free to send a message to me on XPS and I'll get straight back to you. I will probably answer any questions that you have in our group so that everybody can see the answers to those questions. No need to worry about, you know, if you are concerned about anybody seeing you ask a question or you're embarrassed or anything like that, then just send me a message directly and I'll respond in the group so that everybody can benefit from the answer. But, you know, there'll be they won't know who asked the question. All right. So we're going to get started. If you're on right now, then great. And please stay until the end if you can. If you have questions, then like I said, we're going to take those at the end, or you can put them in the chat and I'll get to them at the end. All right. So we are going to get started. All right. Goal setting. So what we're going to go through right now is, what is it? Who should do it? Why should you do it? When should and could you do it? And then how can you do it? All right. And each of those stages is important in its own right. And we will go into each one. All right. So what is goal setting? All right. The goal setting is the process of thinking about and creating a plan for achieving a target in the future, which is currently out of reach. All right. So we are talking about, you're in a particular place right now, geographically in the world, and also mentally, emotionally, and let's say as a player, you are in a particular place. You know, you might be in the first team, you might be in the varsity team, you might be in your premier team, or you might not be. You might be in the starting five, or you might not be. You might be the leading scorer, or you might be the defensive stopper, or you might not be very clear about what is your role on your current team. You know, some of you guys are in the south of England, and so you are 14 or 15 years old or 16 years old. You have a particular skill set. And so goal setting is a process by which you look into the future, which we have an incredible ability to do as humans. Okay, so I can think about the future, and I can think about what I deeply want to achieve, and what I see for myself as a future where I'm happy and I'm successful. And I get to place a marker, an imaginary marker in the future as to where I want to get to. And what that can help you to do, we will go into here, is to start to create a plan of action to get you from where you are right now to where it is that you want to be. All right. So as an example, some of you may have a goal of becoming an NBA champion. All right. So to keep it really, really, really simple, how this goes and what this is you decide on something that you think is important to you, is meaningful, is challenging, is exciting, and at which point you might feel a level of happiness or gratitude for achieving, and you place that down as the thing that you want to get after. Then you make a plan. So we'll talk at the end of the call about how to make the plan. What are going to be the factors that help you to create a robust, a good plan that can help you to get from where you are to where you would like to be. And lastly, you set about actioning your plan. Okay, so once you've decided on where you're going to go and you've made your plan, then you get to work. And as I say, there are some other nuances, there are some details in here which we will get into, but that's essentially the process and what goal setting is in a nutshell. All right, so who should set goals? Anybody that is interested in achieving something which they can't currently do, I think it would be useful to set goals. So there are so many things. That's why I say that this isn't just about basketball, right? I think that you guys should use this primarily right now for basketball. You should think about, as a basketball player, if this is something that means something to you, then you should look at basketball as, what can my goal be? What can happen to me in the future that I could be involved with basketball and I would be really excited about achieving that. And I would be really happy to make it to that level or that league or that country, or just being able to play at a certain age. But what you will find if you do the work is that you can apply this to any situation and any part of your life. So if you are, to take it down to a level that is completely detached from basketball, if any of you are a brother of somebody, you might use the formula that we talk about today to set a goal for being a good brother. Or you are definitely a son of somebody here. And so you can use this process to set a goal to be a good son, or, bring it closer to the game. You might talk about leadership, or you might talk about being a good teammate, or you might set a goal for something academically. So anybody can set goals. And if you are interested in achieving something that right now you cannot do, then using a process that we are going to, similar to what that we are going to talk about today. And in fact, there are many different ways to do this. So this is the way that I will present to you. And if you haven't done a lot of work in this area, then I'd say go with this right now and get yourself started, because you may enjoy the process, you may get a lot out of it, but then there might be some things that you get into which you don't get along with so well. But just by doing this work, you will begin to see that there is value in doing this kind of work. And then you might come across other ways of doing it, which resonate with you, which might help you. Certainly that has been my experience, that, after doing this many, many different times, there are ways of doing it which I've taken from different people and put together my own way. All right. So why is it important? There are many reasons why setting goals can be important and can be extremely helpful. If any of you have seen Alice in Wonderland, I have two little kids, yeah, so we are watching cartoons and old films for children. But there are some films like Alice in Wonderland that have some really deep little nuggets in them. So Alice in Wonderland is trying to find her way out, and she stumbles across the caterpillar, and she asks the caterpillar, "Which way should I go?" And that he asks her, "Well, that depends where you want to get to." And she says, "Well, I don't really know. I don't know where I'm headed right now." So he said, "Well, any road will do then." And so goal setting can be very important if you don't have a kind of guiding star right now. If you don't have a something which you are headed towards, which you have decided this is something which means something to me, which could be exciting and something I want to try to achieve. If you don't have that, then any decision, any road will get you where you're going because you don't know where you're going. And so a few more reasons why this is important along the same lines is like, if you don't have a good idea of what it is that you're trying to achieve, and then somebody pulls you in a certain direction, you may not have a good reason to say no. So, for example, if you are in a friendship circle where people like to go out, they like to, just hang out together in the evenings, or maybe they like to go drinking, or, whatever it is, they're going to ask you to go. And if you don't have a real strong reason for saying no to that, because you are working on something else or you're headed somewhere else, and you have an understanding that doing that might take away from the work that you're doing towards your goals, then it's much more difficult to say no to those people. And then you can get dragged into doing things which in your heart you might not want to do, but you just don't have a good enough reason to say no. So setting goals can be very important in the sense that it provides you with ammunition when people want to ask you to do things for them, or they would just want you to come and hang out with them and go do silly stuff. It can give you ammunition to say, well, no, actually, I'm busy. Like, I've got to do this because I'm working towards this. And you don't have to tell those people that, but it can give you a lot of resolve if you are strong in what it is that you're headed towards. So a couple of other reasons why I think this is important is setting your intention can focus your mind. So if you do the work and you set down where you're headed, what your dream is, what your goal is, and you've made an action plan, or even in the process of making the action plan, you can become more focused on how it is that you're going to get there. And so it's almost like a two-way process. You become more focused in setting out the steps that it will take to get to your goal. And then also you become more focused in the practice that you have to getting there. So you've probably all experienced this. When the season finishes, in the weeks after that, it's not that easy to train like really, really hard or really, really regularly. And that's because your goal has finished. Whether you achieved it or not, like, most teams most teams all over the place at the end of the season will not have achieved their goal. Only one or maybe two teams in the season will have won something, and those people will have achieved their goal, but most of the teams will have not. So, but everybody's in the same boat right after the season finishes, is that now there is a little bit of a void. There is a hole. There are no more goals right now until you set the next ones. And usually right now, this period that we are in is the summertime. This is when setting goals becomes really important individually, because this is the time when you're not with your team and it's not so easy to see what it is that you're trying to achieve. During the season, it can be much easier because there are games to play and you start to be able to measure yourself against other players in the league and other teams that you're playing against. If you're trying to win the league and you lose a game, immediately you understand that you need to change what you're doing, or you need to train harder, or whatever it is that you need to do to make sure that you get back on track. In the summertime, this is more difficult because largely you are by yourself. So setting these goals will help you to focus yourself on how to get to what you want, and then also doing the work. And then I think a couple other things. It will help you make decisions that are going to benefit you to move towards your target. So, if we think about eating and kind of activities that you do in the day and the kind of work that you do each day, the little decisions that you make throughout the day are going to be influenced whether you have goals or not. If you don't have any goals, you've got no reason really to make a decision about eating right or drinking water or, you know, sitting on the couch and watching TV. If you've got these goals, now it becomes a little bit more difficult to not do things which are going to help you towards that goal. And then finally, when you set targets, you will begin to think about the obstacles that could potentially come up on your path to becoming whatever it is that you are reaching for. So if you are trying to be on the national team, for example, if you really set that as one of your goals and you go through this process, you will naturally start to see that there are some obstacles you're going to have to overcome. You know, in the UK, you might say that it's difficult to get on the national team for some players because you don't know the coaches that are choosing players. Well, that's an obstacle. That's something which is going to stop you. It might prevent you from getting on the national team. Now, but as you will see later, what you can do with these obstacles, if you can identify them early, then you can start to deal with them and figure out ways of getting around them or overcoming them. All right. So this is why I think setting goals can be extremely beneficial. And then there is one other thing to talk about: motivation. Setting goals, I don't think, helps you to be more motivated. And I think that sometimes that's difficult to grasp, to understand. But if you think back to seasons that you have played, like you can probably find a point this season that you were playing where you didn't feel really motivated to go to training or to play in the games. You know, and this is more or less for everybody. You know, each person will have their individual differences in this respect. Like, I'm usually somebody who's quite motivated to train and you know, go to practice and do things in the season, but I still experience times where I just don't want to go. Like, and it's just, you know, I'm tired and don't feel great, or, you know, you might get sick or things like this, and your motivation wanes. It goes down a little bit. But then there are other times in the season or in the summer when you feel super motivated, where you really feel like you can go and you can crush the stuff that you're working on, and you can really start working on getting somewhere. I think that's the same for everybody. You know, everybody experiences the ups and the downs of motivation. So the difference between people that are working and achieving more consistently and achieving higher results might not be motivation, because we all experience that. We all feel that sometimes, and then there are times when we all don't feel it. So the question is, what is the difference then that people that are consistently moving forwards, if they are experiencing times when they are not motivated, what are they doing? So this might be another reason to set goals and go through a process of creating that plan that can give you real steps towards making it to where you want to go. Because at those times when you don't feel motivated, you're going to need something to keep you driven, to keep you going. And that can often be the things that you set out in your plan. Okay, because we'll talk about a lot of different things, not just how to do it, but who's going to help you and what can you do yourself and things like that. So, you know, David Goggins is somebody, that the guy on that picture right there is somebody who I follow that person on social media. I think he has a lot to say about putting in the work, and it's really, you know, one side of this. It's not, I don't think David Goggins has it all figured out, in the sense that you know, you can't just work and work and work and work and work tirelessly all the time and not take care of yourself and not slow down at times and also use the help of others. So sometimes his messages are a little bit they're tough to take, because, you know, he's really saying that you need to be working all the time, and maybe you do, but the point being, motivation will be there sometimes and it won't be there other times. So how are you going to get yourself through those times when you don't feel it, I think it's important that you have a plan, that you have people that can help you to stay driven and stay persistent and stay consistent. All right. So when do you start setting goals? When should we begin? Now. Begin where you are. Okay. Don't wait until the right time. Don't say, oh, I'm just going to get past this thing that's happening in my life, or that thing, is coming up in 2 weeks time or 2 months time, and I'll do it then. Do not do that. That's the easiest thing to do. It is to put off the work that you need to do to be successful. All right. So I know everybody has difficult things in their life, and exams is one of those. For you guys, you young people that are year 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, you're going to be going through periods where exams will become a focal point. There'll be times in the year where there'll be pressure from a lot of different people on you to do the revision and the work that is required to do well in your exams. But that, for me, doesn't mean that you should be putting everything aside just to focus on that one thing. Because if you are doing that, then you are beginning to set up a way of living, which means that anytime something urgent comes in front of you or into your life, that you are going to put aside potentially things that are important to you to deal with this urgent problem. And if you're going to be like that for a long time, then that means that the things that are important to you at times are going to get put to the side and not worked on, not dealt with. And, let's be honest, if you're going to try and reach a really high level in anything that you do, you cannot have long periods where you're taking off a lot of time. Okay. So, and life is complicated, guys. When you get older, as you get older, life becomes more complicated. You might be trying to become a basketball player right now, but understand that as you move along on that journey, there's going to be harder and harder decisions to make about where you're going to study, where you're going to live, who you're going to play for, who you're going to be around. And as you get a little bit older, then there's going to be the question of relationships, of family, potentially of children, and navigating that world as a basketball player becomes very difficult, or in any profession. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that this kind of work, if you do it the way that I suggest you do it, which is consistently and not in massive chunks, but you start the work and you do a little bit today and a little bit tomorrow and a little bit the next day, there is always time for doing that. And if you make a little bit of time to set your goals, to work towards the things that you're trying to achieve, if you make a little bit of time every single day, or at least consistently, maybe it's not every single day, but 5 days a week or something like that, you will realize at some point that slowly but surely you are moving towards the thing that you set yourself. Okay. And it is really the only way to get there. You're not going to achieve any great exam result by not revising for 8 months of the year and then all of a sudden revising for a month. You're only going to get a really, really great result if you are taking time most days to go back over the work that you have been doing in your classroom sessions or whatever it is, to reinforce knowledge and to learn around the subject and really make sure that you learn those things. And, I'm really hopeful that all of you guys, as you get a bit older and you go to sixth form and then you maybe go to an academy or you go to a university, that you try to find subjects and subjects that you enjoy, that you want to learn about, so that learning process is a little bit easier. All right. So begin where you are, and just start. The other thing is the goals that you set yourself right now may change, and probably will. So you don't need to worry too much if you cannot think right now, what, I don't know what goals to set myself. I don't know, where I'm going to go. I'm just not sure. That's okay. But there is evidence that this process is extremely effective for the reasons I said, making good decisions, or at least making decisions, starting to put the work in to achieve something. So even if you don't quite know what it is that you're going to achieve, have a think about something which you would like to do, which you can't currently do, and use this as a process to begin to learn how to do it. And I promise you that if you do that, you will change what it is that you've set for yourself as the goal. It will change over time, but in learning the process and in doing the work, you become familiar with how to achieve something. And so learning how to achieve something is going to benefit you once you've figured out what it is that you want to achieve. You'll have already learned what the formula is, and then you're just going to apply it to the thing that you want to do. All right. So I suggest that you don't wait for the right time to start this. Start now, however small that is. Get going, go for it. And then as you go, you will learn how to do it, and you will probably figure out, okay, actually, I don't really want to do this. I actually really want to go do something else. But now I already know how to get all that stuff done. So I can just apply the process. All right. So now we take a few minutes to talk about the process itself. Okay. You don't have to write any of this stuff down right now. If you want to, that's absolutely fine. I will share with you this video, and then there will be some work to do that I will send out this evening for you guys. So first of all, dream big. Yeah. Like set something which is a bit scary, which is something which is exciting. It's something which, wow, I think about, I really want to achieve that, but I just don't know if I can. And if I did, it would be amazing. And it would be the first time in my family, and blah, 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 like something which is really, really up there. And if you were to not even worry too much about if it's possible or not, if it's something which really means something to you, then what does it matter if it's possible? Set the goal, set the bar high, man, and then really get after it and see. You never know. You never ever know. And you don't need to let anybody tell you that the goal that you've set yourself is unattainable. And there's no evidence for that you can dream too big. Okay. Set a deadline for it. All right. Make sure that you put a time out there, and that I'm not talking about like in next month, this might be 15 years or 10 years or 5 years from now, but put a timeline on it so that you can, it can help you to have a vision for the future. And the more detail that you have for this stuff, the easier it is for you to visualize it, to see it in your mind's eye, and also make a plan for how you're going to get there and when. Okay. The next part of this is to write in as much detail as possible the current situation that you are in. Okay. You can relate that to the dream that you have. So if I go back to the being an NBA champion goal, then your status can be how old you are, where you live, what year you're in school, the subjects that you're taking, the basketball teams that you're playing on, the position that you play in. It can be the skills that you think you're good at, the skills that you think you need to improve or you're not so good at. It can be, your height and your weight. It can be your experiences this season up to now, how you played and where you find yourself on the roster. So as much detail as possible in that sense to give yourself a true understanding of where you are in relation to your goal. All right. And this is important because the analogy I often use is sailing a ship to, let's say, I want to sail my ship to New York. All right. So I need to get my coordinates correct from my starting point to my finishing point. If I have the wrong coordinates at the beginning, and I thought that I was leaving from Portsmouth Harbor when really I'm in Spain, then it doesn't matter how good my plan is for getting to New York. If I started from the wrong place, then I'm never going to reach the right place. All right. So it's important that you have a good, honest overview of where you are right now so that you can begin to do that work. Close the door, please. All right. Just hold on a second, guys. No, no. Sorry, guys. All right. So the next step is to state your why. Why do you want to achieve this goal? What is good about it? How is it going to benefit you? What do you see your life being like when you've achieved it? All right. So think about what are the reasons behind your decision to go after what it is that you're going to do. You know, what is motivating you to set a target like this? You know, is it financial? Is it about helping yourself to move from one place to another? Is it about helping you and your family? Is it about, I don't know, whatever it is personal to you. But if you can really connect to the importance of this to you, then this can really help you to have that grounded in something which is going to drive you to get there. All right, the next stage is to write about the risks that are involved if you do not achieve your goal. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is painting the opposite picture of what could happen should you not do the things that you need to do to get there. Okay, so you know, again, in the NBA champion example, we might be saying, well, if I don't do the work, if I don't put in the kind of training and the kind of work that is required to get where I'm going to go, and I just become a little bit lazy and I don't work out this summer and I don't get up early and go do the extra stuff and I don't put the shots up and I don't take care of my academics and my exams, then I'm not going to be a basketball player. And then for you, what is that going to be? You know, are you going to be an accountant? Are you going to you know, what is your academic work taking you towards? And is that, you know, is that something which you're truly passionate about or not? Because if basketball is something which you're truly passionate about and you really want to make that work, but the stuff that you're working on in school is not so much, then to write that down, that, you know, if I don't go and do this basketball thing, then I'm kind of stuck doing the work that this academic route is taking me in. That can be a motivator for you. Okay. I think that it's important that you guys do find academic subjects and schoolwork that can that can inspire you, that can be important for you, because when we finish playing basketball, you're going to be no older than 37, 38, 39, let's say, and then there is quite a lot of life left after that. So I think it's important that you guys focus some of your attention on finding things that you like to do outside of basketball as well, that you might be able to succeed in after basketball. And again, you might take this process and work on it for that once you've gone through the basketball stuff. But for now, it's good enough to say, well, you know, if I don't achieve my goal by not doing the work for the NBA and or wherever it is that you're doing in basketball, you know, I'm going to have to settle into doing this kind of job right away, which is, you know, not something you might want to do. Okay. The next stage is to write down milestones. Okay. So these are markers on the way to the big goal. Okay. So if your big goal is 10 years away, then it's important, it would be useful to have markers maybe 7.5 years, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. Yeah, I mean, you can make the decision on how many milestones you want to put in. But as the example is here, if I've got a big goal that's going to be something like 5 years away, then something that John Amici taught me when I spoke to him about these kind of processes is he said that it would be a good idea to ask the question, what needs to be true? So if my goal is to be an NBA champion in 5 years' time, in 2 years from now, what needs to be true for me to be on the way? You know, for you guys, that might be you need to be at an EABL school, or it might be that you need to have passed your exams and you're on the premier team, you know, or it might be that you're in the States in a Division 1 or a Division 2 school, or whatever it is. Like, what needs to be true 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, for you to be on the way? And what that can do is help you to understand when you arrive there 1 year from now, is this the truth? You know, are you on course, or are you a little bit behind or a little bit ahead? Okay, next part is to write out your barriers. Okay, so as I said in the beginning of the meeting, when you set out your goal, when you look at your big vision for where you're headed, and then you go through these steps, what you start to realize is that there are going to be some barriers in your way. There are going to be things that are going to prevent you from achieving what it is that you set out to do. Whether that be like for most of you, it's going to, part of this might be to try to get to the States on a scholarship, you know, and there are many barriers that are going to prevent you from potentially doing that. Okay. Being in England is one of those barriers. Why is that? Because the level of play in England is not viewed by the outside world as being very high. So if you are not able to excel at, you know, under 16, under 18, academy level, if you're not able to excel at that level, it's going to be very difficult for you to get to the States. Because if you don't have a lot of video and a lot of evidence of you doing really well at these levels, American colleges aren't looking at you, you know, because it's not like, you know, they might look at a kid in Germany who's playing in the top league, but maybe not one of the major contributors in terms of points and numbers. But because of the standard of play, they might take more of a look at more players. See what I'm saying? All right. So what barriers are in there? The national team example is another one. You know, the coaches don't know who I am. So that's a barrier. All right. So then you start to think about, okay, how am I going to overcome that? You know, I might contact the coach and say, hey, this is who I am. This is why I'm playing. What do I need to do to get on the team? Then you might look at your priorities. Okay, so after you've done a lot of work here in setting up the big goals and the milestones and the kind of the blueprint for achieving your goals, now think about in the immediate future, what are the priorities for me? What do I need to focus on right now in the next day or the next week or the next month to get me started on moving towards my goal? Just before I move off of priority, don't set out too many priorities. Yeah, it's important that your priority is your priority, not like you can't have 10 of them. You can't prioritize 10 things. It's too many. So one thing or two things that you need to do in the next day, week, or month that are going to help you to get to your goal. Knock those down or get those started so that then you can move to the next one. All right. Now, this, I think, is a really big step, which I don't think many of you or many young people, or even, you know, people like me, we don't often do a good job of, is what help do I need? You know, who can help me? When I'm thinking about what I'm trying to achieve, how much of this can I do by myself? And how much of it am I going to need help with from other people? Once you start thinking about that, you start thinking about who's going to be able to help you. And that could be other teammates. It could be your parents. It could be your teachers. It could be parents of other people. It could be your coaches. I don't know. I mean, there are so many different people that can help you in so many different ways that if you can get a list of all the different people that might be able to help you. And then you're going to start actioning, what can they help me with? And you might just send them an email or find their phone number and get it off somebody and then give them a call and say, hey, I'm working on this and I'm trying to do this. And I think that you could really help me with X, Y, Z. And so I just thought I'd give you a call or send you an email and see if you can give me a jump start, and you'll be amazed, man. If you're really reaching out to people to genuinely ask them to help you, they will help you. People are, for the most part, people really want to help. All right. And then lastly, this exercise I will send to you tonight is an average day exercise. So think about it like this. As I said in the beginning about the exams, I don't think that it's possible to have like great achievements with like really big efforts over a short amount of time. I mean, it's definitely helpful sometimes, and if you're lucky enough to play on a national team in a European Championship, then that's going to be required at certain times. You'll have to go to camp 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days, work really hard for that period of time. And then, you go away, or the tournament, it's usually 6 games in 7 days or 9 games in 10 days. Those are times when definitely big amount of effort is required in a short space of time. But what I mean by that is that can't be your MO. That can't be the way that you operate. It needs to be consistent effort. If you're putting in the work, and I don't think that it needs to be really that much, but if it's consistent, if it's every single day, and you will see that there is a lot of adaptation which can happen in your brain and in your body by making sure that you revisit the skills that you're practicing, the work that you're doing, and the way that you're doing it very, very consistently. I know that your teachers are telling you this in school, that revision doesn't work if you are not going to do any work until right before the exam. Revision needs to happen right as soon as you begin learning something. You need to revisit it. And if you do that, you revisit it once, and you revisit it twice, and then you revisit it 3 times, it becomes something that you will remember it. And that is essentially what you need to do to pass exams. You need to be able to remember stuff. So doing the work consistently is really important. So this exercise is an average day exercise. It means to think about what kind of day would it look like for you if it was just an average day. But the average day that you are talking about is something which is going to move you towards your goals. All right. So it's not like I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I get 2 hours in the gym, and then I go shoot 1,000 shots before breakfast. And then I have my breakfast and I go to school. And then after school, I go to my team practice. And after my team practice, I lift weights again. Like you might do that once, and then you can't do it for another 9 days because you're so tired and sore. What I'm talking about is, how can you have an average day where maybe you shoot 50 shots and you work out for 20 minutes, and you have your school day and your practice, and you're able to do, your revision and maybe a little bit of writing about your goals, little chunks throughout the day. If you work out, for example, for 20 minutes every day, and you have a plan for working on your physical body and your conditioning for basketball, that's much more effective than doing it one time over 3 hours and really working really, really hard, and then not coming back to the gym for 2 or 3 days. Okay. So thinking about that is something which I would like you to do in the next few days. All right. Okay. We're almost at the end. So one thing that I suggest that you do once you have thought about your big goal. Okay, so once you've got something which you really, really want to achieve, is you go through the process that I outlined before, and you have a look at some of those final exercises, especially around who can help you. And there might be somebody in there that you write down. that you don't know. You know, you might have written down a player that you really like, that has done what you have done, or a coach that is in, you know, a part of the world or a particular level which you think you want to get to, and you know you would really be able to help you. If you don't know that person, it can be daunting, or it can be kind of out of the question in your mind to contact them. But as I said, people want to help, and especially people that have done things that are similar to what you're trying to do, or exactly what you are trying to do. They will have gone through a process unique to them that they might want to share. And it is, I think, the truth that people that do, you know, really, really well and do achieve success, they usually do it because they applied some of the principles that we've been talking about here. And those kind of people are not the kind of people that would, you know, if you called them or emailed them and asked them to help you, you know, would tell you to go away. Like, they'll be the kind of people that will say, yeah, I recognize in this person a little bit of me. Okay. So my message to you here is, once you've written out your little process and some people that might be able to help you and the things that you need help with, find somebody that maybe you don't know, and maybe it's not clear to you that it's so easy to contact, and find a way to do it. You know, whether it be find their phone number or find their email address, or, you know, try to connect the dots between you and them by asking somebody who can ask somebody who can ask somebody, and see if you can get in touch with that person to ask them for some advice. Because it can be really inspiring when you do that and they actually get back to you. And then you start to prove to yourself that this is real, and that you can actually do something which, you know, maybe a lot of people will say that you can't, or maybe you think that you can't right now. All right. So I suggest that you do that, and that will be one of the exercises I put forward to you tonight. All right. Now I'm going to open up to questions. So